What's your name?
Chelsey Thomas.
Your age?
22.
And your marital status?
Single.
And your current residence?
Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Do you want to tell me your ethnic and religious background of your parents, grandparents, you?
My dad is African American. My mom identifies as African American, but she's biracial, as well as my grandparents.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Westchester.
Do you have any siblings at all?
No, I'm an only child. My dad has other children from he has a child from a previous relationship, and then he has stepchildren, but I don't have relationships with them.
And what are the occupations of your parents?
My father works in a school, and my mom is an accountant.
Oh, what's he teach?
He's not currently teaching right now, but he did like 7 classes, a bunch of different subjects.
Do you have any memories from your childhood, like with religious experiences?
Yeah, tons. I grew up in the church, so anything that you could imagine that you could experience in a church, I've probably experienced in the church. Baptisms, and really intense sermons, and people running up and down. I've experienced it all.
You talked about growing up in a church, so what church were you affiliated with?
St. Paul's Baptist Church in Westchester.
Did you go regularly, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I went regularly there, and 8th Street Baptist Church in Delaware.
Did you also go to religious school then?
No, I didn't go to Sunday school or anything. I didn't really want to go to Sunday school. I really wanted to be in the congregation with all the adults because I didn't want to have, I guess, a special young person treatment. I wanted to know the truth about everything.
Do you remember receiving any religious training?
I did receive religious training when I was baptized. Before that, I had classes.
And what were the most important ideas or rituals that you learned?
In classes before baptism, or just in church?
In church or the classes, whatever.
The most important, probably the 10 Commandments. And for some reason, it always stuck with me, like, don't be like Eve. Do what God told you to do. Don't be like Eve. That's probably the silly, but that's what stuck with me.
So I'm assuming religion was important to your family then?
Yeah, it was more important to my grandparents than it was my parents.
Did your parents or your grandparents or other relatives share any stories about their own religious experiences? I actually, now that I think about it, I didn't get that many stories. It was just it just was. Mm-hmm.
I really didn't question too much why they were religious or where it came from, but I know my grandparents didn't come up with a really strong religious background, so I'm actually not sure what made them decide to go to church.
How important was religion to you as a kid?
It was really important to me as a child. It was something, it was my structure. It was like my backbone. It was kind of what I had that was really solid in my life.
So has that changed in importance or just grown in importance to you?
It changed as I got into young adulthood. I wasn't really forced to go to church anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandparents had moved away at one point, and my mom had steered clear of religions a little bit. So I think it became a lot stronger once I got to high school and college.
So why do you think religion was important to you?
I think it was important to me because it was really important to my grandmother, more specifically. It seemed to give her so much joy and so much understanding in her life, and even though I was young, I could recognize that, and I wanted that too.
So in what ways do you think your experiences were similar or different to your parents?
My experiences have been really different than my parents' experience. My dad wasn't really ever that religious. My mother was sort of only religious because her mother was, and then she ended up really stepping away from it, and I realized, just because she did doesn't mean that I have to.
Do you believe that your religion was tied to your ethnicity or your school or town?
I think my school was. I did go to a Quaker school for 5 years, so that was really tied to my town. Westchester has a really strong ancestry going on. My religion definitely was tied really closely to my ethnicity because I identify as African American, and I go to a Baptist church, which is basically Southern Baptist, and it's mainly tied to African Americans.
How do you think that your religion affected your daily life when you were younger?
I don't really know because life didn't seem weird to me. It just seemed normal. So I don't really know. I'm not sure.
Do you think it affected your ideas about the future at all, like what you do with your life maybe, or like where you thought you'd be going?
Yeah, I think as a kid, I think I answered a lot like, I have faith in Jesus Christ that he'll lead me to where I'm supposed to be. And a lot of kids were like, what? Like, you don't have actual plans. And I did, wanted to be a teacher and a singer and all those things, but I just put my faith in Jesus because that's what I was told to do. So I think that kind of made me stand out a little bit from other kids.
So I guess kind of going off of that, in what ways did you ignore or modify the religious teaching or rules that you learned as a kid?
I think I used examples from the Bible as an excuse to lie, but I would know that I'd be forgiven anyway, or take, but know that I would probably give it back eventually. Things like that I definitely ignored, tried to manipulate.
What religious issues or questions were most important to you as a child?
As a child, I did question a lot heaven and hell, much like you did. I always wondered where it was, what it looked like, why I couldn't know what it looked like, why no one could tell me what it was like, more so than whether or not it existed. I questioned a lot of why things happened the way that they did. If God loved us or he loved me and he wanted the best for me, then why was A, B, or C happening in the world or in my personal life?
So, were there events in your life that influenced your religious beliefs?
That influenced it?
That were influenced by it?
Not as a child. I think as a young adult, there were definitely things that happened that either pushed me toward or pushed me away from God at one point or another.
And can you think of any historical events that have affected your religious beliefs? 9/11 or?
Besides 9/11, nothing really happened in my lifespan yet. Besides the war. Besides that.
Do you have any photos or artifacts you'd like to share?
I don't have any. My cross, I wear my cross every single day. Besides that, no.
So what does that mean to you, your cross necklace?
My cross was a gift from, it's kind of passed down. My grandmother's best friend, Grace, gave it to her. And now that I think about it, my grandmother's best friend, Grace, played a really big role in my grandmother's religious background. And my grandmother ended up passing it down to my mom, who later gave it to me. So it's kind of something that has passed down to the women in my life that are extremely religious and have given me, I guess, a role model to look up to as far as the woman in Christ that I want to be.
So do you think that you'll continue that tradition and give it to, if you have a kid or a child that's important to you?
Eventually, probably wait until I get a lot older because I want to wear it as long as I possibly can. But yeah, I'll probably pass it down to my child.
And how would you describe your religious orientation now?
I still identify as a Baptist Christian. I've had thoughts about other denominations because I guess denominations can be seen as man-made in a way. So I've definitely thought a lot about it, but as of right now, I still consider myself a Baptist Christian.
And what can you tell us about your community or church?
I would like to say all wonderful things. It is a really great church. I really love it. I love the people that are there. It's a big community, but a small community because everyone knows everyone and everyone has known everyone for many, many years. So it can get, a little gossipy here and there, little whispers. If you miss a couple Sundays, things like that. But I mean, besides that, I love the church and the community.
What else about your religious experiences would you like to share?
I did grow up in two churches. My home church is St. Paul's, but I was actually baptized in the church in Delaware. And after my grandmother divorced her husband, we stopped going to that church. And it was kind of like a limbo of where to go. Now that I'm an adult, I actually hop to about 2 different churches right now. So I'm not currently a member of any church, but I do still consider the church I grew up in, which is St. Paul's in Westchester, my home church.
And what's the most important thing that you would like us to know about you and your religious experiences, RDPS?
The most important thing I would say is that even though I identify as one thing, I don't hold that over anyone's head, or I don't shove that down anyone's throat. I think it's really important that you should be able to express what it is that you are and let that consume you, but not be afraid to reach out to other religions and other denominations and find out more about them. Not to be ignorant.
How would you most like your interview to be shared?
Just with Dr. Gedge, please.